Welcome to Commodore Countdown, the official pregame show of the Falmouth Commodores. I'm Alexa Galloway, a rising senior at Boston University and the field reporter for the team this season.
I'm David Lauterbach, a rising junior at Syracuse University, and I'll be one of the play-by-play broadcasters this year.
And I'm Varun Raghupathy, the other play-by-play broadcaster and also a rising junior at Syracuse University.
Last year, the Falmouth Commodores went 26-18 and were the co-division champions of the Western Division, but lost in the first round to the eventual Cotuit champions in the playoffs. Now, before we get into this season, David, 11 guys were drafted from Falmouth this year. What did you see from them?
A lot of surprises. Early on, Brandon Finnegan, the first Commodore drafted, 17th overall to the Kansas City Royals, made 2 starts last year, including opening day, but then went on to Team USA. 4 picks later, Casey Gillespie went 20th overall for Falmouth to the Tampa Bay Rays. So they had 2 guys in the first round, had to wait 2 more rounds until Zach Lemon and Dylan Davis went back-to-back in the 3rd round. So they did pretty well overall, the latest coming in the 30th round, and that was Hunter Brothers. But what surprised me the most was the Colorado Rockies actually drafted 3 Commodores, Hunter Brothers in the 30th, Craig Schlitter, and Troy Stein. Funniest part about that, and I'm going to be saying brother a lot here, Hunter Brothers drafted in the 30th round. His brother, Rex Brothers, plays for the Rockies and actually played for Falmouth in 2007 and 2008. So a lot of family connections here for the Commodores, but overall they did pretty well for a league that did extraordinarily well across the board in the 2014 MLB draft.
Now we have 8 returners this season. Varun, we'll start with you. Who stands out to you?
For me, it's Leon Byrd, one of the All-Stars, one of 6 the Commodores had starting in last year's All-Star game. A very fast outfielder from Rice. He's going to be a key in this lineup, especially at the top for a team that isn't getting too many returning starters back when it comes to the field players because of how many players were taken in last year's draft.
Now, David, what are you going to see from them?
For me, it's got to be Kevin Newman, the starting shortstop for nearly every game last year for Falmouth. He actually won the Thurman Munson Award for the highest batting average and the batting champion in the league. First freshman to do so. He's coming back from Arizona, starting shortstop just like Leon Byrd in the All-Star game. He's definitely someone that everyone has to look out for because he has a good bat and extremely good on defense.
Now, Varun, who else are you looking at this summer?
You have to talk about pitching when you talk about the Cape Cod Baseball League, and for me, Kevin Mooney, the closer for Maryland this year, and someone who's going to be a strong part of Falmouth's back end of the bullpen, especially early on in the summer when these players are still adjusting to wood bat baseball. Mooney and the other pitchers are going to need to throw strikes and going to need to put the ball over the plate to get some of these good Cape Cod hitters out. So Kevin Mooney from Maryland is going to be a big part of Falmouth's bullpen.
Now, David, who's your final pick?
For me, it's got to be Kevin McKenna, another player out of Rice. He's a starting pitcher, had a 2.96 ERA for the Owls this season. He started for the Owls over the course of the season, but pitched mostly out of the bullpen last year for Falmouth. Wouldn't be surprised to see him pitch in one of the first couple games. He's going to be a strong part of that rotation. And remember, those are only 4 guys. Falmouth leads the league with 8 people coming back this year. Most teams only have between 4 or 6.
Now, the roster changes through the season, but right now, Varun, who is sticking out to you?
Offensively, Sean Chase, the catcher from Oregon, a guy who's always been a prolific home run hitter, hit his first dinger when he was 10 years old and has continued to put the ball over the fence on a consistent basis. But the most important thing that changed about Sean Chase's game is the way that he's cut down on his strikeouts. His freshman and sophomore year, almost 50% of his bats were strikeouts. Coming into his junior year, he fixed his approach to the plate and he cut down on the number of Ks he had. We'll see if Sean Chase keeps that up in this wood bat league, but he's a guy I'm looking forward to produce offensively for Falmouth.
Now, David, what new talent on the roster is standing out to you?
For me, I'm going to go to the mound. Colin Poche, a lefty out of Arkansas. He was actually one of the top pro prospects in the Northwoods last year, which is commonly referred to as another very good summer collegiate league. Coming from Arkansas, he struggled a little bit this past year in his sophomore year compared to his freshman campaign, but if he can bring the heat from the left side like he normally does for the Razorbacks, he could be pretty dominant on the mound here at Arnie Allen Diamond.
Varun, what additional pick are you seeing?
Well, we already mentioned Kevin Newman as a shortstop, but there's another talented guy in the infield named Tyler Krieger from Clemson. He had a monster year for the Tigers. Now, they struggled as a team, but Krieger was consistently in the lineup, batting in the first 3 slots, and he can really hit the ball. Krieger's a person that I'm looking for. Maybe not necessarily with his glove, but with his bat, he can do a lot of damage in this Falmouth lineup.
Now, what other new guy are you seeing on the roster that's going to contribute a lot to the team this year?
I'm not just going to stick in the ACC. I'm going to stick in South Carolina with Clemson. Steven Duggar's coming over, played a little bit for Cotuit last year. He's an outfielder for the Tigers at Clemson. He has tremendous power, extremely raw. He was one of the top prospects, if not the top prospect by perfect game, coming out of high school from South Carolina. He's someone that in the middle of the order could be the pop. He could be the bat in the middle of that lineup that brings back the memories of last year when Falmouth at one point averaged 6.5 runs per game.
Now let's take a look at talent around the Cape. Varun, Ryan Combs from Orleans is a reliever from Kentucky. What are you expecting to see from him this summer?
Well, he helped lead the Wildcats to their best bullpen ERA in program history, and it's because he's a strike-throwing lefty, and he's also added some bulk to his frame, and the velocity on his fastball is a lot better this time around. He's someone that Falmouth has a good chance of seeing on Sunday in that doubleheader down in Eldridge Park.
David, out in Chatham, there's a lot of talent, one of them being Landon Lassiter. What are you looking to see from him this summer?
I'm looking to see him solidify that infield for Chatham. Last year they had a couple good infielders, but it was mostly the corner spots and behind the plate with Connor Joe that they succeeded. So it'll be interesting to see how Lassiter, coming from UNC, a program that struggled at the end of the season in the ACC tournament and in the NCAA tournament, to see how Lassiter can transition from an okay season over in UNC to coming here back to the Cape for a second go-around.
Now getting back to the Western Division, for the Bourne Braves, Ryan Kellogg from ASU had a 1.36 ERA last summer, but struggled a little bit in the spring season. How is he going to bounce back?
Well, he had an ERA of more than 3 for the Sun Devils and also only went 8-3. He started his freshman year at Arizona State 11-0, so definitely going to need to bounce back. But if someone who's going to see a good Falmouth lineup a lot because they play in the same division, it might be a bit of a struggle for him. But I wouldn't be surprised if with this Woodbat League he does bounce back, because 1.36 ERA in Cape Cod, nothing to scoff at.
Now finally for Cotuit, Rhett Wiseman's coming back. He was an all-star, the only all-star for Cotuit to start. What are you going to see from him? Well,
unfortunate for the Kettleers, he's actually going to be playing in Omaha next week, which is fortunate for the Commodores. They're going to be missing their only starting all-star last year in Rhett Wiseman. You know, when you talk about teams and there's kind of those guys that lead the team, well, last year that was Rhett Wiseman. It was him and Bradley Zimmer. Wiseman the only one coming back. He's going to help that offense succeed, and he's going to help them in the outfield with a power arm from the corner spots, sometimes in center, and a big bat in the middle of that lineup, probably in the 3 or 4 holes. Wiseman probably going to be, again, a leader for Cotuit in the Western Division.
That's all we have for you today. Make sure to follow us this season on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get all of our coverage.
And that includes, of course, the season opener against Brewster starting at 5 o'clock, but be sure to tune in at 4:45 for Commodores Countdown on Ustream.
And our home opener this Friday against YD at 6:30, Commodore Countdown starting at 6:15. If you can't make it to any game, home or away, know that every game will be broadcast on Ustream with Alexa, Varun, and I.
See you on the diamond.